Boeing Vice President Prat Kumar said the test flight lasted 90 minutes and the plane worked as expected. Today's successful flight testifies to the safety and readiness of the jet to join our nation's fighter fleet, said Prat Kumar, Vice President of Boeing. In addition to operationally testing the aircraft, the 2-week event also involves testing the aircraft's Eagle passive active warning survivability system. The EPAS system is the next general advanced electronic attacks as well as electronic protects system that the X and Strike Eagles are currently testing and developing and hopefully fielding in the relatively near future, Han said. That's going to give us the ability to essentially go into some of these more advanced threats or aerial denial kind of situations where we can now self-protect and self-jam our way through. Joel said Nellis AFB is the best place to do the operational testing because it offers the best air-to-air and surface-to-air training range and provides the highest fidelity data on the backend to be able to know whether the systems worked. Oftentimes, we go out there as pilots, and we think that the airplane works as well as it should, but behind the scenes, we dig into some of the instrumentation, and it wasn't exactly what we remembered, he said. Every so often, we need the instrumentation folks to help us out with what was really going on. The Nellis Range Complex offers that ability to be able to not only do an instant feedback of how the airplanes performed, but also pull back the data to be able to analyze it in very close detail, to make sure that that's what was happening, or even better, to be able to find the problems that we had and use that data to find the fixes and then implement them as quickly as possible, Han added. Following the tests at Nellis AFB, Myers said the planes will return to Eglin AFB for more developmental tests. We've been doing developmental tests for the last several months leading up to this event, which is more operational focus, he said. We'll be transitioning back into developmental tests for the remainder of this year and going into next year, as we continue to test the additional capability of the platform to include the additional weapon stations and additional operational flight program upgrades. Following that, Joel anticipates the F-15EX will eventually participate in exercises like Red Flag Nellis. The more situations that we can put this airplane in, the better information we learn. That integration is probably the key thing in the Air Force, to be able to get multiple different kinds of fighters to work together, to be a more formidable force, Joel said. Here is to provide the initial push for operational tests and evaluation to really evaluate the platform from an end-to-end perspective with the addition of a robust threat environment that we have here at Nellis. That way, when we write our initial test reports, we're giving an accurate look to the combat air force and the Guard as to what the platform is capable of when it initially fields, said Colton Myers, Operational Flight Program Combined Test Force F-15EX Test Project Manager. Major Kevin Hand, an F-15EX experimental and operations test pilot with the Air National Guard Air Force Reserve Test Center, is among a handful of pilots who will fly multiple day and night missions with defensive and offensive counter-air while at Nellis AFB. The big thing we're trying to take away is really showing the differences between the X and the C model, Han said. A big improvement the X has is that it's a digital flight control system, so it's a fly-by-wire aircraft, versus the traditional C model, which is a standard hydro-mechanical aircraft completely controlled by the pilot, versus now a computer controlling the airplane, he said. Hypersonic missiles, like traditional ballistic missiles that can deliver nuclear weapons, can fly at more than 5 times the speed of sound. Ballistic missiles fly high into space in an arc shape to reach their targets, while hypersonic missiles fly at low trajectories in the atmosphere, potentially hitting targets faster. Most importantly, hypersonic missiles are maneuverable, like much slower cruise missiles, often subsonic, making them more difficult to track and defend. While countries like the US have developed systems designed to defend against cruise and ballistic missiles, the ability to track and drop hypersonic missiles remains a question. Hypersonic missiles can be used to deliver conventional warheads more quickly and precisely than other missiles. But their capacity to deliver nuclear weapons can add to a nation's threat, increasing the danger of nuclear conflict. F-15EX development and delivery details. The process for acquiring the F-15EX aircraft began in February 2019. The F-15EX program was approved under the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2020, which was signed in December 2019. The program of record includes the purchase of 8 F-15EX aircraft in the first lot, with future plans to purchase at least 144 units to replace the Oregon Air National Guard's aging F-15CD fleet and refresh the existing F-15 fleet. Boeing secured a $1.2 billion contract to produce the first batch of 8 F-15EX advanced fighter aircraft in July 2020. The company is responsible to provide design, development, integration, manufacturing, testing, verification, certification, delivery, sustainment and modification services for the aircraft. The aircraft is being manufactured at the Boeing F-15 production facility in St. Louis facility in Missouri, U.S. The first F110GE129 engine for the aircraft was delivered to the USAF in September 2020. The maiden flight of the fighter jet was performed in February 2021 while the USAF officially accepted the first F-15EX from Boeing in March 2021. The aircraft left Boeing's facility in St. Louis and arrived at the Eglin Air Force Base, AFB, in Florida to undergo combined developmental and operational tests. The integrated testing will focus on meeting the test objectives and identifying any system issues for rectification prior to the production ramp-up and delivery. The second aircraft is expected to be delivered in April 2021 while the remaining 6 aircraft under production Lot 1 are scheduled for delivery in 2023. This is a major moment for the Air Force. Air Force Colonel Sean Dorey, F-15EX Program Manager at the Air Force's Advanced Combat and Aircraft Directorate, Life Cycle Management Center, said in a statement. With its large weapons capacity, digital backbone and open architecture, the F-15EX will become a key element of our tactical combat fleet and complement our 5th-generation assets. Derived from the F-15QA Advanced Eagle that Boeing developed for the F-15EX, it is the most advanced version of the jet currently in production. Additionally, while the Air Force's primary focus is on replacing F-15CD jets, which are exclusively used in the air-to-air combat role, the F-15EX's payload capacity inherently paves the way for the aircraft to take over for other missions. In addition, it is capable of carrying hypersonic weapons, giving it a special role in future near-peer conflicts, Colonel Dorey, Air Force F-15EX Program Manager, said in a statement. Meanwhile, the U.S. Air Force is reportedly set to test its hypersonic missile this month. The AGM-183A will be the first hypersonic weapon, or Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon (ARRW), in the U.S. arsenal. This missile travels extremely fast through the atmosphere, about 20 times the speed of sound at such a low altitude that it is impossible for enemy missile defense systems to fire it. Hypersonic missile designs, including this one, usually involve 2 stages. First, the rocket accelerates the weapon to many times the speed of sound, while remaining at a much lower altitude than the intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, that fly high above the atmosphere before delivering their nuclear payload. Second, it unleashes a gun-carrying glider for its final journey to its target, cruising through the atmosphere like a tossed surfer and waving over the waves, adding to the furrows of any attempt to shoot it down. Could the F-15EX fighter jet be the launcher for the hypersonic missile? The line of old aircraft is considered a risk to the safety of its users. So, the U.S. Air Force retrofitted or replaced it with a new unit. The Department of Defense is currently considering buying additional F-35 jets to replace its older aircraft. However, the required budget is predicted to reach $1.5 trillion. This is the F-15X, America's new hypersonic missile launcher fighter jet. The U.S. Air Force has officially taken delivery of its first F-15EX fighter jet. The plane is now heading to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida to begin testing.